wait a couple more minutes just to see if any more people come on, and we'll get started. For all the new people who just joined on, we will be starting in about a minute or two just because we're waiting on a few more people, and yeah. Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our district-wide club president and vice president officer workshop. Today we'll be going over a lot of general information regarding both the position of president and vice president, and it'll hopefully help you be informed by your positions as you take on this new service year. Some things to keep in mind during this entire webinar is that you will not be able to turn your cameras on or unmute your mic, which is why specifically for this webinar, we do have a Q&A function available for you all to utilize and ask your questions. It is highly suggested that as I go through the presentation that you all ask questions as it pertains to each slide. We do have other panelists on board ready to answer your questions as you send them in. So definitely don't be afraid to ask questions. We really welcome them. We will be having actually a Q&A panel at the end of this webinar. So if there's a long question that might not be able to be answered in text, just wait for it to be answered at the end of the Q&A panel. And that is something that we'll be doing. Also, make sure all of your questions are Key Club appropriate. And yeah, at the end of this webinar, we will be having sort of a checking in form for you all to fill out. That way your Lieutenant Governor is aware that you did indeed attend this webinar, and that's just something that you have to wait till the end of this webinar to fill out. So let's get started. Okay, so if you didn't know already, my name is Joey Chen, and I'm your 2020 to 2021 District Governor. In terms of my location, I am from Division 18, which is in Zone H. That is around the Sarasota County area. In terms of my previous experience, last year I served as the Division 18 Lieutenant Governor, as well as the Endowment Committee Co-Chair. So if you saw anything regarding the Endowment Committee on Instagram, that is what our committee organized. I was also previously a distinguished club treasurer and also a club committee chair. So I'll be taking some of the experience that I've had in the past and applying them within this workshop, and hopefully I'll be able to bring some new insights onto your positions. But of course, like I mentioned, we do have 3 other panelists on our call today, which are going to be helping us answer questions in the Q&A function. They are all lieutenant governors on our board this year, so let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Abel. I'm the Division 15A Lieutenant Governor. I come from Zone F. I see some of y'all, shout out to y'all. But in my past experience, I was Club Vice President last year, and I'm very excited to be with you all today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Thank you for coming.
Hi everyone, my name is Ari Orvela Blaha. I'm the Division 25B Lieutenant Governor from the North Miami area. Hi Miami people. I previously served as the club's vice president, so I'm very excited to help you all today, and thank you so much for having me.
Hi everyone, my name is Madison Burt. I'm the current Division 17 Lieutenant Governor. I'm from Division 17 in Zone H, which is the Bradenton-Sarasota area. For my past experience, I've been a past distinguished club vice president as well as a G. Harold Martin Outstanding Key Club president. So I'm excited to be here with you all and answer any of your questions.
Yes. As you can see, all three of our panelists today have immense experience within Key Club and also within the positions of president and vice president. Actually, Madison she didn't mention, but she was the #1 winner for the J. Ho Martin Outstanding Club President. So she definitely has a lot of insight on the position of president. So definitely drop your questions into the Q&A function. Don't be afraid, just ask them and they will be answering them throughout this presentation and also at the end. Okay. So going into the content of this webinar, in terms of the general duties of the president serves as the chief executive officer of all officer meetings and club activities. This essentially means that as president, you call and preside over all different types of meetings, again, whether it be board meetings or club meetings, and you also plan them and also plan projects for your clubs to do. In addition to planning these meetings, you also delegate and assign tasks to officers and members, and you ensure that the tasks are completed on time. So whether this be dues, which your treasurer will be covering, prayer reports, which your secretaries will be doing, with all these tasks that your officers are doing, you are making sure that they're completing them on time. And in the absence of your position, if you're not there on time, that is when you want your vice president to step in. So, on the note of vice president, the general duties for vice president is to essentially assist the president. In the case that the president is absent, you want to be prepared to administer the club in absence of the president and take over a lot of the duties, which is why these two positions were combined into one webinar, because a lot of the responsibilities of the two positions are correlated. So you do need to know the president's responsibilities to be vice president. You also lead the other officers and assist them in their duties as the executor. So whereas the president is delegating the tasks to your officers, as vice president, you are checking up on them and making sure that they're completing them on time. You want to ensure that attendance is being taken at meetings. You want to check up with your editor and ensure that a newsletter is being produced. And then you also want to make sure that with all members that their dues are being paid. So in terms of general duties for both the vice president and president, you want to represent the club at Kiwanis meetings and events. This is a really, really important point because you always want to establish Kiwanis family relations. Your club should have a dedicated Kiwanis advisor, and if you haven't established a relationship with them, definitely do. Your Kiwanis club is the club that has sponsored your Key Club, and they are really, really dedicated to helping your club succeed. So definitely represent your club at Kiwanis meetings and attend them. You also want to represent the club at the divisional council meetings, which your lieutenant governor would be the ones that are holding them. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on the divisional level. And typically at DCMs, you also learn about what's happening on the district level. So all that information you get to learn and then relay onto your members at club meetings and also onto your officers in officer meetings. You, of course, want to attend service projects and club divisional events. Throughout this entire summer, our lieutenant governors have been working hard to hold DCMs and events, so hopefully you all have been attending them and staying active, and this will continue throughout the year. Your lieutenant governors will still be holding service projects and still be holding DCMs, so make sure you attend them. Of course, you want to make sure that you are attending the Key Club Kickoff Conference, or KCKC. This is sort of like the first step into attending KCKC, as typically officer training happens at your zone's KCKC, but this year we did it separately. Your zone or group of divisions should be holding its own separate KCKC, so make sure you do attend that. Along with that, make sure you attend your zone's Spring Zone Rally, which is where running for higher office and your next lieutenant governor is elected. And then, of course, the district convention, or DCON. Also, before DCON, you want to make sure that you hold elections prior, around the February time, and then submit new officer information forms to your lieutenant governor. Communication. So this is a really, really important point this year, especially since we are in a very ambiguous time. The state of Key Club might be very confusing, which is why you want to make sure that you have a strong communication, not only between your officer members, but also with your actual members. So this could be, for your officers, it could be creating an email group for the board and the members. So you can communicate through email. You could also inform members about upcoming events through platforms such as social media. So Instagram is really popular. You could also have a Facebook group. a Remind or any other preferred platform. So I know some people like using the Band app or Google Classroom, or maybe you want to create a website for your club. Any of these methods work. Just make sure you have something established that all of your members are aware of so you can communicate with them regarding how your meetings are going to be happening. This is so, so important, and you really want to make sure that you are establishing that strong line of communication. Of course, as president or vice president, you are the heads of your club, so you want to make sure that you are professional in all levels of communication and you are speaking in a very professional tone, and also just be mindful of what you are sending out through an email blast or through Remind, and keep in mind who is on the other side of your audience. Of course, with communication, you want to, again, communicate with your lieutenant governor and keep up with everything that they're doing on the divisional level, and also communicate with your faculty and Kiwanis advisors. With your faculty advisor, again, especially since this is a really confusing time, they will know exactly the specific circumstances of your school regarding club meetings, how that's going to work, if there are any rooms available if you are doing in-person meetings, or if there's a way to hold online ones. Your faculty advisor will be the point person to go to for that information. So definitely communicate with them. And then for your Kiwanis advisors, again, they are there to support you, and they have been working with Key Clubs for several years. So if you ever need any information or advice on sort of a larger scale, your Kiwanis advisors are there to assist your clubs as well. Okay, so communications with members. So if you are holding in-person meetings, you do want to make sure that with every meeting, you are greeting your members at the door and you acknowledge everyone. If there's any trouble that's going on, make sure you address it. And then for club meetings, you want to make sure that you are holding online icebreakers just to get members more comfortable with being in Key Club, because not a lot of people are super comfortable with this online format. So doing icebreakers really helps. For board officers, you want to hold board meetings at least once a month to discuss upcoming projects, finances, goals, etc. Remember that as president or as vice president, you are a part of a team. So with all of your executive decisions, you want to involve them in the discussions. And I bolded this, underlined this, and italicized it because it's so important. You want to make sure that you are delegating your work. President and vice president, both of these positions are really time-consuming positions, and you have a lot of responsibilities, but that does not mean you have to be the only one taking them on. You have a whole board of officers there to assist you, so make sure you are delegating tasks to them so you can move forward as a club board as effectively as possible. For advisors, like I mentioned previously, advisors have the experience you need, so definitely keep them informed and be willing to listen to their advice, because again, they will know things outside of what we as students see from our perspective. So it's really important to listen to them and communicate with them. Lieutenant governors. So your lieutenant governor has valuable information about the district events and opportunities, and they are there to serve you. They are truly there to ensure that everything that's happening on the district level is relayed to you, and especially in this time, you really want to be looking to your lieutenant governors as one of your point contacts for inquiring about things happening on the district level, so definitely communicate with them. Another option that you have, if you have a specific inquiry that is related to a specific officer, so for example, if you had questions about community and it wasn't working, you can contact our district webmaster. So the option to communicate with district officers is definitely available, so feel free to contact them. And all of this contact information is on the floridakeyclub.org website. You will find it under the section where it lists all of our members and all of our board members, and it'll have their contact information and email there. Okay, so for meetings, you want to make sure that you are keeping up with the keyclub.org website and the floridakeyclub.org website weekly to see upcoming events and news, so you can make sure that, again, you are presenting relevant information to your clubs. I know Key Club International, they have produced a few resources to assist you all during this time, and Florida Key Club definitely has created an abundance of resources for clubs to utilize, and we'll be discussing that a little bit later, but definitely, again, keep up with the website so you can relay that relevant information to your members. With your club meetings, you want to make sure that you're considering your members' input and create and abide by an agenda for your weekly meetings that fits their interests, because your club functions off of your members, so try to do something that fits what everyone wants to do. Also, you want to arrange and conduct a board of directors meeting at least monthly. When I was part of my club's officer board, we held weekly officer meetings just so we could prepare for the meeting for the following week. I would suggest you hold at least bi-weekly ones, but if your club can only meet once monthly, definitely make sure you meet at least once so you can make sure that with every single club meeting, you are prepared for them. Make certain that each club and board meeting is well planned and organized and flows smoothly. You want to make sure that you are, again, like going back to the previous point about like conducting yourself professionally, you want to make sure that you seem like you're a professional and you have your club together and that everything flows smoothly. That way, when your members attend your meetings as a new member, they think it's fun, they want to continue attending, and they want to continue with your activities because it is organized and planned. So yeah, envelop fun and fellowship within your service. As president or vice president, you conduct and preside over regular key club meetings. Presidents, again, make sure that if you are absent, you have your vice president there to take over a club meeting. Something else that might be useful to know is, of course, parliamentary procedure. This is particularly important with making amendments to bylaws or trying to do elections. Parliamentary procedure definitely helps streamline that entire process, and there's more information about how to conduct parliamentary procedure on both the keyclub.org and Florida Key Club website, I believe. So definitely look into that for your club elections and amendments. And then, of course, for virtual meetings, you want to utilize platforms such as Zoom or Google Meets to hold these virtual club meetings. Okay. Assist and lead. So as president or vice president, of course, you are assisting and leading the entire club. So you lead the membership in a well-rounded program of activities and projects. So again, enveloping what your members are interested in into your activities. I know when I was an officer of my board, we had a survey for our members to fill out to see if they were interested in a certain type of service project, and then centered our entire year around what our members were interested in. So we can ensure we have that retention of members throughout the entire year. You want to make sure that you are monitoring all officer work to ensure that everything is completed on time. As president and vice president, since you are the heads of your club, a lot of your members will be going to you for different inquiries about the district level or the international level. So you do want to make sure that you have exceptional knowledge of Key Club, both international and district. And attending this webinar is definitely the perfect first step. But again, reference our website and Key Club International website for more information about the structure of our Key Club. You also want to make sure that you're educating new members about what Key Club even is. I think the name of Key Club can sometimes be really confusing. I know when I joined, I thought, like, why is this volunteering club called Key Club? A lot of that you can explain through your first few meetings, and make sure you educate them on what our organization is all about. And then this is also really important to ensure future success of your club. You want to make sure that you transition and train your president/vice president-elect for the upcoming year, just so you can carry on your legacy and ensure your next board does everything efficiently. Okay. With assisting and leading, again, you want to establish strong Kiwanis family relations. So that goes back to communicating with your Kiwanis family, Kiwanis advisor, and just ensuring that you're attending their meetings, you are communicating with them when they attend your meetings. But Kiwanis and family relations also extends to K-Kids in your area or Builders Club in your area. You want to make sure that you are reaching out to them and doing joint projects, which that is also a huge point of my governor's project this year, which will be discussed towards the end. But yeah, definitely establish strong Kiwanis family relations. You want to start projects within the first month of school. So obviously right now it's a really weird time, so it's totally okay if your club has not started meetings or projects yet, but definitely if you haven't already, start thinking about how you're going to be holding your first project and how you're going to be holding your meeting, whether it be in person or online. There are definitely a lot of ways to hold virtual service projects, and all of that is in this Key Club and Quarantine Guide that our executive committee has created, and we'll be going over that at the end. Also, you want to send delegates to district and international Key Club conventions. So as an officer of your key club, you are representative of your club's voice. So when you go to the district the Education and Leadership Conference, you will be the ones who are helping vote for our future board of district officers. So you'd be voting for the next governor, voting for the next secretary, things like that. So you want to make sure that you have delegates from your clubs at DCON to represent. And then at least once per month, you want to plan a social activity or service project to maintain excitement. And if you didn't hold one over the summer, that's totally okay given the circumstance. But for the future, definitely consider, even during break time or winter break, having some sort of event that still keeps your members engaged so they don't fall off and they still keep Key Club in mind. Setting goals. Right now is the perfect time to be setting goals for what your club wants to complete during the rest of the year. Ongoing evaluations of club meetings and operations leads to continuous improvements in the club. So something that our district has implemented this year is a thing called glows and grows. So essentially on the district level, we encourage lieutenant governors after every single divisional council meeting to think about the glows. What happened at their divisional council meeting that worked well, that they want to highlight, that they want to continue on for the future. But then for the grows, what maybe didn't work as well, but they can improve and grow from. So those are things that you want to keep in mind after every single meeting so you can ensure continuous improvement. Your goals must be clear and attainable. It's all about improvement, even if it's not drastic. So make sure you have attainable goals and don't, do something that's unrealistic, just so you can keep a positive mindset and your entire board can move forward with the idea that they are able to complete their goals in mind. You also want to continuously monitor the club's progress towards goal accomplishments and the activities and responsibilities of all officers and employees. So again, I feel like this point keeps on being brought back up, but the point of checking up on your officers and checking up on your members, making sure they're on tasks, and that way you can ensure that your goals are being attained because your officers and the people that are serving in your organization are being on task. And it's your job as the heads of your club and of your organization to ensure that is happening and ensure you're moving towards your goals. Okay. So here are a few examples of goals that you can set. So for service hours, you can sort of use this template and say, our club will achieve blank hours per member by blank time. So you can do, our club will achieve 15 hours per member by DCON 2021. That is actually a district goal that we have set for different members to achieve at least 15 hours of service, which is totally attainable. So yeah, keeping that in mind. For membership, if you want to have membership growth, our club will retain current membership and raise it by 10%. That is an example that you can do. For fundraising, our club will contribute $200 to the Eliminate Project and raise $500 for DCON. Just things like that. Having these goals laid out in this very easy to comprehend format is a great way to ensure all of your officers are on the same page with their goals and that they are attainable and that they are clear what your goals are. Okay. So club administration. So as president or as vice president, you want to work with the secretary in filing your club's annual achievement report and also any contests and awards applications. All this information can be found at www.keyclub.org/awards, and there is also an awards section on our floridakeyclub.org website. So once DCON comes around, there'll be deadlines that will be put out, and your lieutenant governors will inform you of them, but you want to make sure that your secretary and you are working on those applications, so your club can be recognized for all of its hard work. You want to make sure that each member has paid his or her dues and has received a membership card, pin, and handbook in return. The situation with dues this year is a little bit ambiguous and confusing because obviously not a lot of clubs are meeting back in person. In terms of the guidance that we received from International, one thing that is for sure is if your club is unable to pay dues this year, you will not be punished for it. So hopefully that will relieve some stress. But if you are able to collect dues in some way or another, definitely collect them so you can make sure that each member receives their card, pin, and handbook. And then you want to make sure that you are confidentially contacting members who have not paid dues. Things like paying dues is not something that you want to announce to your entire club. Definitely reach out to your officers one-on-one in order to make sure that they have paid dues. Okay, so as president or vice president, you act as a school/community liaison. So whether this be you're acting as a liaison between your club and the division level, or your club and another outside organization, you, again, are the heads of the organization and the people that any outside organization coming into your school will refer to when they're thinking of Key Club. Make sure you are staying connected with the student council and school administration. Having a great relationship with your school's student council can prove to be really, really beneficial, because typically with student council, they are one of the most active organizations on campus. They can help relay information about your club meetings to your student body. So definitely connect with them. And then this is, of course, really important this year, connecting with your school administration. For this year, you want to make sure that you are up to date with your school's policies regarding holding club meetings and just making sure that you're communicating with them. And then meet weekly with your faculty advisor to cover agenda points and current club issues. So this can be separate from your club board meeting, just so you make sure that you are covering the essential points before you bring them to your club, to your board. But you do want to make sure that you are communicating one-on-one with your faculty advisor and getting their input on what's going on in your Key Club, and they can give you advice. And then for that information, you will be able to relay that to your club board. Okay. Moving on into committees, this section is primarily for vice presidents, because vice presidents will be the ones that are looking over your club committees, but this is useful information nonetheless to know. Okay, so what is a committee? A committee is a group of people who work together for a common purpose. They are led by a committee chair who should be appointed by the president and voted on by the club board. And like I mentioned, the vice president oversees the committee system. Why do you want to use a committee? So for committees, this is a great way to delegate the officer's workload onto members. It will, oh, this is a really good point, give members leadership opportunities. So going off on a little bit of a tangent, the position of committee chair was actually my first ever leadership position. In middle school, I was not a leader at all. I was not involved in any clubs or anything. So joining high school, Key Club was one of the first clubs I joined, and being the Candy Cane committee chair was my first ever leadership position. And obviously that led to one position after another, and now I currently serve as district governor. So as president or as vice president, you absolutely have the ability to make that impact on the members in your club. So don't underestimate the power of committees and the power that providing leadership opportunities through committees can have. And okay, going back on to this slide, committees are also a great way to work towards club goals, and it ensures that projects and events are carried out in the most effective manner. Key Club, there are a variety of activities that happen within Key Club, whether it be talking about the governor's project, fundraising for Eliminate. There are just so many different things that your Key Club can focus on that only a small board of officers wouldn't be able to accomplish effectively. So with committees, you're able to give one specific goal to a group of members, and that way their entire focus is the governor's project or Eliminate, and they will be able to carry that out effectively. So that's why it's important to have committees. Okay, so who makes up a committee? Ideally, every single one of your members should be a member on a committee. You can figure out how you want to sort members into committees through a survey. That's what my club did. We had an entire membership packet where members could, like I mentioned earlier, like give feedback on what service projects they wanted to do, but also sign up for a specific committee. So that's something that you can do. In committees, aside from members, you also have committee chairs. It can either be one committee chair or a co-chair, and they will be the ones who are leading the committee activities. As vice president, it is your job to survey the members and ask which committee they want to be on, and also encourage each member to be active on a committee. So again, this survey could happen through membership packets, it could happen through a Google form. Google Forms seems like it's probably the best option for this year, but as Vice President, you will be organizing and spearheading this project with committees. Okay, so for committee chairs, this is something that is important for the Vice President to keep in mind, just so you know where your duties begin and where your duties end and where the committee chair's duties begin. So committee chairs are members that head a committee. They ensure that committee goals are accomplished, and they report committee progress and news to club officers, especially vice presidents. Outside of normal club meetings, they also hold monthly meetings with their committee members just to keep up to date with the specific tasks that their committee is covering. And then they, of course, delegate duties to their committee members. So those are the tasks of committee chairs. And as vice president, you are making sure that your committees are staying on task and completing these responsibilities. Here are some examples of committees that your key club can have. You can have a Relay for Life committee, a Governor's Project committee, a Kiwanis Family committee, a fundraising committee, membership growth, scrapbook, or service project planning committee. So these are obviously very, very different focuses with each committee, and that's why committees are so important, because again, there are a lot of different things that your key club needs to accomplish, and having committees can ensure that you are tackling every single aspect of what being in a key club entails. Okay, so circling back to the point of the relationship between vice presidents and committees, the vice president is in charge of managing the committee system, and they advise them. Vice presidents do attend monthly committee meetings, whether they are in person or online. They ensure that work is completed in their committees and progress towards their goals. And they also help committee chairs and members with any problems they might have. So whereas committee members, they're the ones, and committee chairs, they're the ones who are really focusing on the task. As vice president, you are just advising them and making sure they are staying on task. Okay, so that was the main information for the position of vice president and president. Now we'll be moving on into the governor's project, which is something that is really important that you need to know if you are an officer. Again, as president or as vice president, you will be the point contact for members regarding these things. So it is important that you stay up to date with this sort of information. So this year, my governor's project is called Keys for Kids, with the slogan of unlocking a better future. If you want more detailed information regarding the specifics of this project, you can go on floridakeyclub.org/keys-for-kids. But essentially, this project has the goal of empowering future leaders, and you can do this through 4 different categories of service projects and initiatives. And that is manifested through the acronym KEYS, which stands for K, kindness to kids, E, empowering future leaders, Y, youth connections, and S, supporting children in need. So with K for kindness to kids, my thought with this portion of the acronym is that being kind and being nice to someone can go a really long way. I know the nice officers and mentors that I had when initially entering Key Club made a huge difference in my self-confidence and my motivation to continue on in Key Club. So being kind can go a long way. Some projects can include positive sticky notes on students' lockers, mental health awareness posters, anything like that. And a lot of that also can be transferred onto an online format. So if you want to do mental health awareness on your club social media, that is totally possible. Again, E stands for empowering future leaders, which is the overall goal of the project. With this section, you can also consider spearheading a empowerment movement within your school and have your Key Club be the head of that. And I think that would be a really cool way to make a tremendous impact on your school community and also participate in the project. Y stands for Youth Connections. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, Kiwanis family relations is so important, and that is definitely emphasized in the Y portion of the Keys for Kids project. This really emphasizes connecting with K-Kids and Builders Club and just ensuring that they have a future with Key Club, that they continue their journey on into Key Club, Kiwanis, CKI, and they continue being leaders. So involving them in service projects, inviting them to your meetings, anything like that. And then last but certainly not least, this is also a really important point, especially given the current circumstance we're in, is supporting children in need. now more than ever, there are so many children that are faced to unfortunate circumstances because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And even outside of the pandemic, there are so many children that have issues that aren't being addressed. And as Key Club and with this governor's project, it allows you to support the children that are in need. So going into your marginalized communities and making hygienic kits for them, or hosting a meaningful celebration for foster children. This sort of this section of the governor's project focuses on uplifting those that are in need and letting them know that they have the ability to achieve their dreams and they can do whatever they'd like to do. So supporting them through that. So that's my governor's project. Again, more information will be on the floridakeyclub.org website. We will have a governor's project guidebook coming out soon with even more information on the different aspects of this project. And we also have a governor's project guide, not guidebook, brand guide for you all to use so you can adhere to our Keys for Kids brand. Yeah. So resources. For more information, I know I've constantly referenced the website throughout this entire webinar, but the website is definitely a great point for a great place for you all to access and find a lot of really useful information. Of course, you want to contact your faculty advisor, lieutenant governor, or zone administrator at any time because they are always there to help you. Okay. This is another really, really important thing, and it's something that our executive committee has recently developed. I really believe that this resource will be a key one that you will be using moving on into this new service year, but it is our Key Club and Quarantine Guide. Essentially, this entire guide covers a variety of things from service projects to recruitment to fundraisers. It just gives a whole bunch of ideas on how your club can still function remotely, and it outlines everything in a really simple manner. So definitely go look through it if you haven't already. You can access it here at this link. It's a little bit long, so if you want to take a picture of it and type it into your browser later, you definitely can. Or if you don't feel like typing out the entire web address, you can also contact your lieutenant governor. All lieutenant governors should have access to this guide. So if you reach out to them, they will give you that information. So yeah, again, I just want to emphasize one more time because this is a really important guide that you please, please, please go look at this, share it with as many people as you can. If you know fellow presidents that are presidents or vice presidents that aren't on this call, share it with them. This is a primary resource for this year. Okay, so before I move on into our Q&A panel where we bring back Ari, Madison, and Abel, I do want you all to check in and fill out this Google form that we have just so your lieutenant governors are aware that you made it to this meeting. We have a QR code that you all can scan, or you can just type bit.ly/KCKC check-in and just fill out that information so we can record that you actually sat through this presentation and you were here. Every attendee must sign in. So I'll give you all a few minutes to do that. Maybe like 1 minute. Yeah.
Joey, if you want to continue, I'm working on giving them access to the Google form.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, now we will be moving on into the Q&A panel. So throughout the presentation, I did see little notifications pop up that you all were asking questions in the Q&A function, which is great. But now we will be bringing our 3 panelists back on to discuss a few questions and sort of have a discussion-based type of learning. So if we can turn the chat on, that way you all can have easier access to typing your questions in there. Actually, maybe I'll stop presenting so you all can see us and not just the screen. Let me see. Stop share. Okay, we are here. To do we have a lot of questions? Or I have a few pre-written ones that we can start to answer, but it looks like there's a lot.
We left a couple questions that we thought would be better to discuss, like unanswered, and then they're there if you want to look at them.
Yeah, okay. We definitely have a lot of time, so I think we can get started with the pre-written one first, just so we all can cover some like key different points, some different points, and then we can move on into the ones in the Q&A function. So the first question that I have for you all is, how can you run a board meeting effectively, just in general, but also considering the circumstances of COVID-19? So if anyone wants to answer that.
Yeah, I can help you with that. So if you want to have a board meeting that is really effective, especially consider COVID, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. And the first thing is that I recommend from my past experience with my club is to have set dates for your committee meetings. So if you want to do them like every other week or every month, I mean, you may also choose to have one whenever the situation arises, but it's better to have them on set dates just so that people like your officers are there. Another thing is always set an agenda before so that you know what's going to discuss and you don't just talk them forever and never get anywhere. The agenda is very important to keep you organized. Also, always remind your officers, like after you set the date, try to remind them like a week before, a day before, whatever it takes to make sure that everyone's there. And then my favorite part is when your meeting is done, try to write out an action plan of everything that you discussed, like your meetings, but then try to have it like what each officer is supposed to do until the next board meeting. That works really well. And then you can email it or text it to everyone. And that way you make sure that everyone knows what to do and that no one is like confused about what happened in the board meeting.
Yeah, great points. And I love how you mentioned like checking up on your officers and following up with them with communication. Again, a big emphasis of our webinar was like communicating. Make sure you're communicating with your officers, whether you're a vice president or a president, you want to keep that flow of communication. Another question that I have is for specifically the position of vice president. So as vice president, how do you find the balance between sort of micromanaging your committee chairs to make sure they're staying on task and just ensuring that they actually get things done?
Yeah, that one hits a little hard. I'm definitely micromanager type. But I think the first thing you have to do when you're working with your committee chairs is to define your expectations. I know that Joey provides a list of goals for our committee chairs to complete, and she defines a certain date. So we'll say we need this done by our January board meeting. I think goals are very important to make sure progress is getting done. In addition, I think you need to ask for constant updates and ask for ways that you can help and offer how you can support them. Instead of doing it for them, just ask what they need and how you can suit them. Another thing, I think trust is hard, but you need it. So definitely try to build trust with your committee chairs and let them know that you trust them, because I think letting them know that you trust them builds their confidence to do the best that they can. And lastly, I think I would say know your members' limits. I think having attainable, realistic goals is very important. Some goals may be unrealistic at the time. I'm not going to say unrealistic. So I think just break it up into pieces, make sure it's realistic so that things can actually get done and your committee should be good to go.
I have another thought about that. I think that it's very important to recognize that people have different leadership styles that might not match yours, but that doesn't mean that it's any worse. It works a different way, and you need to recognize that sometimes your committee chairs are just not going to lead the same way as you, but that doesn't make them any less worthy of being leaders, and it doesn't mean that they won't accomplish their goals. It just means that they're doing it a different way, and who knows, it might be more efficient than what you had thought. So definitely be open to changing your mind and letting them take that leadership, as long as they're responsible, of course.
Definitely.
Yep, definitely great points. Before we move on into the next question, I just wanted to mention that the Google form is now up and running. So if you didn't get to fill it out before, you can definitely access it now. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so this one is specifically for Madison, our J. Harold Martin Outstanding Club President. I'm sure some presidents or vice presidents are interested in this, but do you have any advice for becoming a distinguished president or vice president, and just some things that you did throughout the year to achieve that?
So the first thing that I did when I started my term was I made a goal, and my goal was to be able to be a G. Harold Martin president. And so I went through and I made a list of everything that I thought I would need to accomplish within the service year, so that way I could make sure that I maximize the amount of points on my application. And so the best areas that I encourage all of you to work on for the rest of this year would be to attend your lieutenant governor's DCMs. Each DCM that you attend is 5 points on your application. And so if you attend all the DCMs of the year, that's a huge chunk of the points to be distinguished. So every one of you should all be attending every DCM that your lieutenant governor holds. It's also a great way to get information and updates as well. Also make sure that you're attending KCKC and Spring Zone Rally. And so KCKCs are right around the corner. You've probably been getting a bunch of emails from your lieutenant governor, but make sure you RSVP and make sure you show up. It's a great way to be able to get information as well as getting points. Another way would be to get service hours. So I really want to emphasize getting service hours. You have to have a certain number of service hours in order to apply, just to start your application. And then additional service hours you have count towards additional points. So the more service hours you have, the better your application will be. And then just for the president form, another one would be working with membership growth, making sure that your pride reports are submitted on time. Each distinguished officer form is more specific to the responsibilities of that officer. So vice presidents works with, has some questions on there about committees, whereas presidents don't, but each distinguished officer form also has a section on there to ask if you've been working with the governor's project. So also make sure that you're doing Keys for Kids projects for Governor Joey's governor's project to help you get as points as well. And then this form will be posted on the Florida District's website in the spring, right around February time, right before DCON. So make sure that you all fill it out, and you will need some recommendation letters as well. So just keep that in mind.
Yep. I think Madison covered it perfectly. All of the information regarding our awards are on our floridakeyclub.org website. As Madison mentioned, a lot of the requirements for getting a distinguished position is essentially just doing your job, doing service, participating in your activities, communicating with your members. So as long as you do your job effectively, you will be able to likely get a distinguished award. There was a question in the chat that said, I do not have an officer position in my club, but I was told that I can still join the conferences. What should I put in the field for my officer position in the Google form? So we will be having one of our adult advisors update on the form, so you have an option to select member. So yeah, just check up on the form a little bit later. Okay, so our last sort of pre-written question is, understanding that we are currently in a very unprecedented time with COVID-19, what advice do you have to deal with unexpected crises like these? So not just COVID, but like an officer resigning, or any tips for like staying collected?
I think honestly, the key to staying collective is definitely just have consistent meetings where everyone's there, just to build like that team spirit in your club, that you're like a family and you're all working together. If you have your meetings consistently and you try to incorporate service, even if it's just like making a card or writing a letter or filming a video, it will definitely help to just build that connection with key clubbers, and maybe put them in breakout rooms and do like icebreakers, just anything to keep them engaged really will help you to build that sense of community, which is what Key Club is about at the end of the day, even virtually.
I definitely agree with that. In addition to that, I think a great way to stop the stress of being an officer is what we mentioned before, the committees. They're designed to help you out. They're not made to make your life harder. So I definitely suggest making those committees, and I think that draws your club closer. At the end of the day, though, I think we should be aware that there is a pandemic going on. I think be flexible with your officers, with your people, and just have empathy for them, because they may have other stuff going on. But again, I can't reiterate that enough. Have committees.
Okay. Madison, do you have any points to add?
One point that I just would like to add is for this year, with there definitely being a pandemic going on, is to make sure that all of your members feel engaged and that they feel connected. So even if your school, some of your members are doing online school and some of them are doing in-person school, make sure that you have both service projects that you can do in person and service projects that you can do online if your school's letting you, just so that way everybody feels like they're part of the club and that they're able to participate. And it'll also be a great way to increase your membership as well.
Yep, definitely. And if you need ideas for any online projects or anything, keep that Key Club and Quarantine guide in mind. All that information is in that guide. Okay, so those were all of our pre-written questions. I know we do have a few in the Q&A function. Before we move on into those, I have a few updates on information that was previously given out. So if you're a member, the form should have an option for member now. So if you want to go in there and mark that you attended this as a member, feel free to do that. In terms of the criteria for distinguished awards, the applications will be available around October. So that is when you'll be able to review the specific information for that. And then for any lieutenant governors that are on, don't worry, we already got you that you attended this webinar, so you're all good. Okay, so moving on into the questions in the Q&A function. Oh, I like this one. So how should presidents help vice presidents' leadership skills and feel enthusiastic about helping out? Anyone want to take that?
I think that's a great question. As president, a vice president and president share a lot of the same duties. So I think at your meetings, definitely give them some time to do part of your tasks. I think slowly you build them up to become the leader. I wouldn't say like let them host the whole meeting, but you want to build their confidence by maybe hosting once a few slides or whatever works for them, just to start off small and so they can build up over time.
Yeah, another thing is what Abel was talking about earlier about really building that trust relationship. I think it's super important that you trust your vice president and that you become, I mean, as you volunteer together, you're going to become really good friends. So I think just trusting them and just more than trusting them is trusting them to like do the duties that sometimes you can't take on all of them. So just delegate to them, you know, sometimes you have a lot of responsibilities with school, with life. So you can trust your vice president and tell them, hey, could you do this for me? And then obviously like you could review it to make sure that it's done well. But I think definitely just don't be afraid to delegate duties to them.
Madison, do you have any finishing points on that one?
I would just say encourage your vice president. They're there to help you. Every responsibility shouldn't be solely on the president. The vice president's there to help you. So just give them some tasks. Let them know that you're really appreciative of them and everything that they do, and just encourage them along the way.
Yep. Okay. So this is more specific to the Keys for Kids project, but I don't know if you all have any ideas for this. What sort of activities should we offer/engage in to participate in the empowering section of Keys for Kids?
I have a really good idea for this one. So if you can connect with your local builders clubs or K-Kids, which if you don't know is the Kiwanis branch for elementary and middle schools. And then even if they don't have it, just try to contact those schools and try to make maybe videos to them about how they can become better leaders, how they can impact their community, along with other types of service where maybe you can read books to them or something. But specifically about empowering, I think it's really good to set the example and just show them like, oh, you're going to grow up to be like me. And I was in your position 5 years ago, but you know what? Like, if you work hard and you keep others in mind and you always like try to do service for your community, then you can grow up and be very successful.
Adding on to that, what Ari said, I completely agree with. In some of our newsletters, you probably saw Big K and Little K. And so these are basically like mentorship programs that you can make with your local K Kids Club or Builders Club, and you can be the Big K and they're the Little K. And you're just being a mentor to them, helping them out whenever they need help, advice, whatever. And I think that's a great way to train them into becoming leaders and eventually hopefully coming to Key Club someday to serve our communities here as well.
Yes, okay. All great responses. Another question that's in the chat function is, how would you describe Key Club to someone you would like to recruit?
So I have a whole little speech, but I'm not going to give it here today. I think that the main points that you should highlight within explaining what Key Club is that we are a leadership organization as well as a service organization. So it's a great way for people to be able to get service hours for scholarships and also get leadership positions for college applications. So those are the two strongest points. Also mention that Key Club's basically a family. It's a way for you to be able to find a place within the community. There's tons of different mentorship opportunities you can get from Key Club and tons of just different opportunities you can get. So just highlight what Key Club is. Then I'd also include like what your favorite service project is, just so that way it's a little bit more personal and not such a scripted response.
Yep, that was a perfect way to advertise Key Club to a new member, emphasizing the both service and leadership aspect. Another question that's in the chat is, will there be any scholarships offered for high school seniors who are involved in Key Club? I'll just answer that and say yes. You'll find information about scholarships, again, on our Florida Key Club website. It is an amazing place to reference all sorts of information regarding our district. So definitely look on there. How do you get your Key Club members listening and engaged during club meetings? This is a really big one, I think. Trying to make sure members are still listening. Abel or Ari, do you want to take that?
I can take it. I mean, from past experience, I think try to make your presentations more concise and not too long so that you're not talking forever, because people won't listen to you for that long. So just try to make them engaging. Also try to make your presentations interactive. So maybe you can ask them questions. For example, at one of my divisional council meetings, I started with a Kahoot, and that was really fun because then people were entertained and they wanted to participate. So yeah, just make sure that it's not you talking the whole time, but people are, like it's more of a conversation than just an announcement.
Yep. Just since we're short on time, I'll do maybe, since we have 4 minutes left, I'll do 2 or 3 more questions.
A lot of people have been asking if this presentation is going to be posted. Yes, it's going to be posted on the Florida Key Club website, the PDF of the presentation along with the recording.
Yep, this is being currently recorded, so you'll get this entire presentation. Another question that we have is, do you have any advice for presidents/vice presidents who are chartering a new club, how to build a solid foundation that lasts beyond us? So Abel, do you want to take that?
So I think freshmen are your best bet. They are so eager to join lots of clubs. I think and the good thing about them is you can train them and they'll be there for 4 years. So I would definitely suggest starting there and make sure that they're very interested. That goes along with having icebreakers, bonding activities, whatever it is, to make sure that they're interested in staying in Key Club.
Yep, that's a really great point. Establishing connections with those freshmen at your school will definitely ensure a future continuation of Key Club. Okay, start live. What would be the best way to establish a builders club at a middle school that you have no connections with? Madison, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So the best thing that you should do is reach out to your sponsor in Kiwanis Club. They are the ones who have all the contact information for anything related to Builders Club. So reach out to your sponsor in Kiwanis Club, let them know that you're interested, and then they'll give you some information. And then also reach out to your Key Club Lieutenant Governor, because they have resources that they can send you as well. And then the contact information for your Key Club LTG is listed on the Florida District's website. So just go to our website, and then you can click on our names, and then our emails will pop up as well.
Okay, I'll do one more question and then we will wrap up. Let's see, let's pick a good one. Okay, what are some examples of initiatives to take in Key Club during this pandemic? This one everyone can answer with sort of a short answer. So Ari, do you want to start? And then we can do Abel and then Madison.
Sorry, I was just answering a question. Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, yeah, of course. So what are some examples of initiatives to take in Key Club during this pandemic?
Okay, so initiatives that you can take in Key Club during the pandemic is definitely try to reach out to not only your members, but I think definitely there's a lot of organizations out there that are still trying to make an impact regardless of the situation. So partnering with them can be very helpful, and doing online service, or also there's many in-person volunteering opportunities that are keeping social distancing, and that way you can provide opportunities to members while staying safe. So I think partnering with local organizations is a very key club thing, and it always works really well. And it gives you like that networking experience that you're gonna need when you grow up and go to college, get a job.
Abel and Madison, it can just be like short, quick things, advice for initiatives.
On that note, I'm going to emphasize the Key Club and Quarantine Guide again. But one thing that's very accessible that I tried out a few weeks ago was freerice.com. And this is a very non-expensive website where you can answer questions to earn meals for families in need. Each question you answer gets 5 grains of rice for the United Nations. So that's a very accessible opportunity. It doesn't cost a thing, pretty easy to coordinate, and it's a great idea for your club to do.
Yep.
And then one just thing I had to say was make sure you just focus on membership recruitment. A lot of seniors still need service hours for scholarships. So just emphasize that and just try to recruit as many members as you can. It's a great way to be able to get service hours. Just keep that in mind.
Yep. Okay, so that was the last question we will be answering. I know there were a few questions that were not answered, so if you still have any other questions, make sure you reach out to your lieutenant governor or a district officer. You can also reach out to me. My email is governorjoey@floridakeyclub.org. Of course, all the information is on www.floridakeyclub.org, so you'll find all of our contact information on there. But I wanted to thank you all for taking the time to be here today. We had a large number of presidents and vice presidents attend, and thank you for being dedicated to Key Club. Thank you for learning and listening to this webinar. And yeah, definitely reach out if you have any questions.